Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. First item is approval of March 6th Board Finance Committee meeting minutes. So moved. We have a motion and a second. Is there any questions? Hearing none. Please vote. Okay, the next item is the audiovisual and computer equipment supplies.
Okay, AV bids. These were submitted, and Tim McKay told me to apologize to you guys. He couldn't be here, so I told him I'd bring it forward. But to accept the bid items as presented for $18,729. A couple things that I want to make sure and add here that in 2013 this bid item was nearly $300,000, was $289,433. In 2014, according to the information I have here, the total AV bid was $429,000 due to video projectors, equipment, and screens for Garden Park and Oak Grove, as well as a few other replacements. And so this has the $18,000. The notes that I have, they say, has eliminated a great deal of toner cartridges due to the increased use of copiers, decreasing the use of individual printers, and then also warehouse had more accurate count on stock finding, so finding it unnecessary to restock and purchase any of those old items. Any questions on the bids?
So getting new equipment, then we don't have to continue to purchase the
Yes.
things that we need to
Yeah, and then our tech have done a good job in rerouting, instead of each individual classroom having their own printer, and then there comes the cartridges with that as part of it.
Excellent. That's an enormous difference.
I move to accept.
Yes. Second.
All right, any other questions? Please vote.
I can't vote. In a moment. Come on. There it is.
All right, the next item is the Apple Bus contract renewal.
Okay, the Apple Bus contract renewal, in July 1, 2012 was the initial terms of the contract, and so it was for 3 years, and so that it is due to expire June 30th of 2015, and so that's why you're getting it now. As a general provision in letter B, there's an option to extend this agreement, and this extension can be at the option of the district for a period of 2 one-year periods at the same terms and conditions as the initial agreement. We feel like that Apple Bus has done a tremendous job for us over the course of 3 years. Our greatest challenge did come this last year, and whenever we redid the boundaries, opened 2 new schools, closed 2 new schools, kind of did some efficiency things with the buses, and still lots of work to be done there, but at least the routes won't be changing for them next year. And so we would certainly recommend that we continue the work with Apple Bus and extend that at the same terms as this year for 1 year. And any questions with that?
So we could extend it for 2 years, but just 1 year at a time.
Yeah,
okay.
two years, 1 year at a time. I do want to make sure to note that one of the state audit findings was on a contract provision with Apple, and it deals with efficiencies and them being, if they're late, what's their efficiency rating of it being late. And so what we have begun work with the business office, so we get those efficiency reports, and so we're working with the business office to see where we're at as far as the rating on and making sure we're both the district and both Apple is in compliance with those standards set within the contract. As noted in the state audit, they felt like there's never been anything paid by Apple or never been anything paid by the district to Apple, because it is kind of a give and take contract clause there, and so they felt like that we weren't following the contract in that provision. So we're working with the business office and making sure that those are set up, and then we will get those things addressed as both audit response and in compliance with the contract.
That's great. That's great that you're addressing that too.
So moved.
And I would like, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I just want to introduce the folks here because they are here with Apple. Kim Green is Apple. She's the director of transportation for Apple Bus. And then that's Reed. Help me out, Reed.
Oyster.
Reed Oyster. Okay. And Reed works with at their central office in Kansas. Where at Kansas City?
Cleveland, Missouri.
Cleveland.
Yeah.
And Mike Oyster is actually the owner of Apple Bus, and that's obviously his son. And so, great relationship.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Great
Yes,
work.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Yep.
That's it.
Very good.
What other questions?
Motion already.
There's a motion and a second.
Oh, we
There's
made
the
it.
voting.
Thank you, Apple.
Debbie, you are just too fast.
No, I have
Thank
my-
you guys. If you want to leave, or you can stay. Don't want to make you stay.
It'll be a really long meeting. But if you're super interested, you're welcome.
I think our breath's out.
Thanks for coming.
It's a beautiful day out there. And a long drive back, you too.
Thank you. Thank you for all you do for our students.
I don't know, it must be fun.
Okay, the bread bill.
Okay, Michelle.
Bid.
But it will be a bill. It will be a bill.
It's a bill.
It is. Technically, it is a bill. Soon to be a bill.
Okay, we have been working diligently in nutrition services to prepare for the next school year. So we brought 2 bids to you this afternoon. Understand that these products have to meet strict USDA guidelines. We have been using the bids that have been used in the past. Also know that the vendors are really good about letting us know that if they get specs and they see something that needs to be adjusted, they're really good about telling us about that, so that we can make adjustments. We're very happy to say that both the bread and milk bids didn't require any adjustments at all, so we're happy about that. We've also looked at the last few years and noticed that the quantities have remained pretty much the same every year. I guess because the student enrollment really isn't changing, so we're able to use those numbers. And so we had two vendors that responded to the bid. They are Leopold Farms and Bimbo Bakeries. The low bid is from Bimbo Bakeries, and I will tell you also that we also looked back to see what the last time we opened bids for the school district before open. That bid opening was for $93,561.85. And I'm just really pleased to say that the low bid is $80,431.83. So that's a difference of $13,130.02.
That's a big savings.
I'm pretty happy about that.
Great. Yeah.
So it's our recommendation that you accept the bid from Bimbo Bakeries.
So moved.
Second.
Any further questions?
Saving money, yes.
Thank you. Absolutely.
Where is Bimbo? Or, I mean, yeah, it is Bimbo. I'm like, wait a minute, did I say that wrong? Who would name that?
They are in Kansas City.
The name is Bimbo, the family name.
I mean, it probably is.
I don't know.
Could be.
All right, here's,
Please do.
That's something you needed to ask them, I understand.
okay, dairy bid.
Okay. Again, this is the same criteria, very strict guidelines. Again, the quantities remain the same. There were some differences between the bids in 2019 and this year in that some of if you notice, like cottage cheese, sour cream, yogurt, what was bid in 13 was a little different than that. So what we're bidding is what we need to bid now. Okay, so that's why those blanks are
There's
those
some
spaces.
things that we don't need, that we don't use.
Well, it's just different. Yeah, there was like there was just a difference in the sour cream. But really, this is what we need to put out now.
I can't get it over.
All right, and you'll notice the estimated, the firm price, the escalated price. Now, the escalated price is really what we operate off of. The firm price is if the prices fluctuate, they will not exceed the firm price. Okay.
Gotcha.
Oh, but if it goes lower, then we get the lower.
Right, we really work off the escalated. And really, historically, when we look at the budget, Usually whatever the PO is written for, we don't actually usually spend that much, occasionally, but that's really what we're seeing.
Okay.
Okay. So the 2013 bid, again, the last time we opened the bid for dairy product, the bid was $426,585.10. We only had one bidder, and that was Highland. They are local, and the bid was $381,762.10. So that is a difference of $44,823.
Great.
This is almost like pinch yourself. Is this really right? You know?
That's for sure. That was
It's awesome.
so
Yeah.
good.
Keep doing that magic.
Second.
Other questions for
Because
Chris?
you know, milk just keeps going up and up and up and up, so that stresses me.
Really, what we're seeing is that, I mean, yes, they can go up, but really they usually stay constant or drop slightly.
It's a transportation, yeah.
All right, the gas prices are down.
But once we're
Oh,
locked
okay,
in,
so-
we can't exceed that.
They can't exceed that fixed.
So if the
Correct.
gas were to go up.
It can't go above that.
We're
That's
locked in.
correct.
And this is just 1 year, right?
1 year.
Excellent.
Yes.
Great bids. Keep at it.
Yeah, well, we don't have control over, but we're pretty happy with the commitment.
He didn't sweat it. There was no big light on it.
That's right.
Okay, next item is food service management.
Okay. Almost immediately after the board voted to not renew Opa's contract, we were contacted by the director of nutrition services in Hickman Mills, and she let us know that she was excited about us taking that back in house, and she would like to help us in any way that she could. She is also a past Missouri School Nutrition Association president, and also a past School Nutrition Association national president. So obviously she knows what she's doing.
Pretty well qualified.
Yes, and I think you have her resume attached.
It will open.
That's
The
Why
Word
is this one
documents will not open. Do we not have?
This particular one
Yes,
opened for me.
in the future, I've
They opened for
been
you?
told that I need to do that in PDF, and I will do so.
This one has been the first one that has opened
No,
for me.
it won't. And I tried.
I just tried
I
it
keep
tonight.
trying it numerous times today.
I have her resume here, if, I mean, we can make copies and hand those out.
Just tell us the pertinent things like that. You were
Yeah, I
fine.
mean, she has an extensive background in that.
Yeah.
And she's been kind enough to, the first few days when we took over, we had some questions and she answered those just over the phone.
So we're gonna pay this person?
This would be, she would be a paid consultant,
Okay, is this
$75 an hour.
Is this something was posted?
Well, what he's asking for is it just on a consulting basis if needed. And really, I talked with Chris today, they may not need it, it may be an hour. I would recommend the board, put a cap on it to 3,000 to 5,000, up to 3,000 to 5,000 without it coming back to the board. But it's just as a consultant basis, and so technically you, especially if you don't exceed the $5,000 mark, you wouldn't need to get the 3 bids. You go over the 5,000 mark, then that would be, that consultant type services would certainly need to be bid out.
One of the thoughts I had was, with us transitioning back to our own nutrition services, that maybe we need to have this person come so many hours for like the first month or 2 months, whatever that is, so we know, so they can help us make sure we're doing things right.
But we've discussed things like that, and in addition to just, we even need to write down what are the things that we need to talk to her. We want to be efficient in the time that she's here. But really, this is just, I needed to bring it to you to see that you would approve that we would do that.
$5,000 is 66 hours, so it's a lot of hours.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, 3,000 would be a week. She'd be here for a week. And right now, as we've discussed this between food service managers and office staff, right now we don't really have anything for her, but I'm sure that eventually we will. Get a great resource to have.
Do we cap it at like 4,990 or something? So
Well, 5,000, he needs to get 3 quotes, in 3.
So 3,000 is 40 hours. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea, so whatever you want to cap it at is...
You should be able to read the resume now.
I can. Yep.
PDF.
There it is, yes.
You do that.
What kinds of things are you expecting to need to ask about?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we've asked of her is, obviously, we need to know what are the DESI guidelines that is required not only of the department, but even the department leadership. And what I've seen so far is that there are some new guidelines that's going to take place July 1. So if there is not, in the school district, if there is not a named director to that position before July 1, then there's professional standards that come in place that if we hire someone, they have to have these credentials, and they have to a Bachelor of Science with background in nutrition services and so on. So either, and I'm still studying it, I want to get that information to you, either someone within the district administratively needs to step into that role and be named into that role, or we hire someone and they need to have those credentials.
Well, that's what I was sort of wondering, because I thought that when we were talking about all of this, is that I thought the ultimate goal was to hire one person like Martha was all those years ago, and hopefully, I thought we were hoping that that person would have that nutrition background, and they would kind of, we could get that special.
You're taking me right down the road that I want to go.
Oh, okay.
Okay, because I want to talk to you about what we've been doing. Okay, not only for a director, but also for a dietitian. Okay, and now
So you think it has to be two?
there could be two positions, or it could be one.
Okay.
If you could combine the two.
Okay.
Okay. So when we look at this, when I say we at the department, especially Mickey and I, we've looked at this, and we know that we're basically just volunteering to do this for the time being.
And thank you very much.
Yeah. So we know that we need some dietetic help, no doubt about that. Okay. Now we do have a software program that we're getting ready to put in place. We bought it. It's a program we've used in the past called NutriKids. Okay. So it's a comprehensive, yes, it's a computer-based program that basically everything that's on the menu is in this program, with, in addition to sodium content, sugar content, so on.
Okay.
All these things are in there. Of course, the menu is constantly changing, so we need to continually update that. But we think we can do that in-house.
Okay.
We'll be able to ship
So
things
we
around.
already bought that software.
We
do
have.
not have to purchase any upgrades or anything like that to that?
Every year we may have to do some upgrades, but they probably would not be significant.
Okay.
Okay. So we have that program. We're getting ready to input it. We still have to do that.
Okay.
But we have some time to do
Is
that.
that's separate software than when the kids go through and they scan the
Yes.
little card?
That's
So will we still have that scanning?
It's my understanding is we'll still have that. Right.
That's all
Okay.
still ours, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So we shouldn't have to upgrade that either?
Don't believe so.
Okay, perfect.
So while the program is very good, but there still doesn't fill every need. Certainly there's, when we have special needs kids,
Yes.
we need to know that we've got someone to go to. Also, when we look at this, again, you'll know or you remember that when we talked to you from the podium the night that OPA's contract was not renewed, we talked about, Mickey and I will do this until at some time when you say we need to step aside.
Right.
That is still the plan.
Okay.
But we also know that with the operating levy and the uncertainty of that renewal, we're trying to be creative. So last week, Mr. Gill and I met with Pat Dillon with Mosaic. Okay, and so we discussed with Pat if Mosaic would be interested in partnership with the school district for dietary support.
Okay.
Okay, and I think this goes beyond just the fact that we need a consultant. Now, there's a consultant and there's also a partnership, and I think right now we're talking about a partnership where they support us. But I don't want to get too far ahead of the game because Mosaic is still working on this.
Okay.
But what they would do is they would take care of any of the phone calls. They would certainly once every 3 months when we do the menus, they would come in and help us set the menus. Again, if we ever have special needs children or allergies or things, those are supposed to be phone call away. Okay. Here's another neat part of this, is we know that the national trends we hear is that the American populace is obese. So I think it's a really good thing here that we look at, these are the healthcare experts. Certainly they can help us with the dietary needs and the guidelines to try to help with the dietary needs of our students. So it goes beyond just the things they can answer for us, but they can kind of guide us to help with the nutritional needs for the kids.
So if we did that, then we wouldn't need this other consultant.
No, I think it's different.
Okay.
You're talking about administratively versus nutritional
Okay.
guidelines.
All right.
Right.
Well, that's an important distinction. Yeah, I wasn't necessarily clear on that too, so that's good.
Yeah. So we're talking about, again, you're talking about the nutrition services. That's from an administrator's point of view. What kind of things we need to do here? What do we need to
How
do?
do you run it?
Operation.
Absolutely.
And I think that we also have some partnerships already with Mosaic, with Ms. Burnham, and can you talk about that just a little bit, Ms. Burnham?
Well, we do have a youth health partnership with Mosaic, and again, it was before Opus, stepped in, but they did offer a dietitian as needed due to the partnership, and if we had a question, we could consult with the dietitian, we could meet with the dietitian. We really have to focus on our diabetic students and our gluten-free students and our food allergy students. So questions did arise. I think it behooves us to have someone on staff for situations like that, but we do already have a great partnership with Mosaic. So I'd like to get together with Chris
Something to
and
build
maybe
on.
sometime and Denise and talk about our special needs
Absolutely.
and our special meal students.
Again, we didn't know if there was even a possibility. We met with them last week during spring break, and I just talked to Mr. Dillon this morning, actually, to see where we were with the process, and he confirmed that he'd met with Dr. Lane, and that Dr. Lane was very excited about it.
That's
And
awesome.
so
Yeah.
it is. We're very excited about it. And certainly I do need to engage both of you as well. You need to be at the table when we have those conversations. Mr. Dillon's going to sit down with the dietitians on Monday, talk to them, and then he's supposed to give me a call back. But I wanted to make sure before I go too far down the road here
That's a
that
great idea.
get your input on that.
And I think that that's just working with us, getting the kids more healthy will actually help their bottom dollar in the long run because they won't be there.
Right.
So I think, and I also think about the gluten-free stuff because there's more and more kids that are celiac, have that intolerance, and it's just kind of, there's just so many things that you have to think about when it comes to that.
Mm-hmm.
And so having the key people in place really makes a difference.
Absolutely.
Awesome, positive partnership in the
Yeah,
community.
we're excited about it. Then as far as the director, my thought is, and so as well as with Mickey and I, and again we're talking to the managers and so forth, is let's not get in too big of a hurry to hire a director. Okay, at any given time we can do that. If we are going to hire a director, then certainly I think the new superintendent needs to be in place to do that.
Yes.
So in the meantime, we're just like, well, I think Mickey and I are okay so far. Give us oxygen every now and again. Okay.
Excellent.
And so we'll just see where.
Should we bring cupcakes by every once in a while just for sustenance?
I'm sure you wouldn't be too sad about that.
Yeah.
The
So that's where
nutrition
we're.
part
That's
of
where we're
that,
at.
however.
Let's see, we could, well, every once in a while, a little snack isn't it?
Excellent.
Very good.
All right, I'll move to approve the consultant for nutrition services not to exceed $4,500.
Second.
Any other discussion on that?
Your motion's gonna say 5,000, I goofed, but I'll fix it.
Okay.
Okay.
4,500.
It has to be under 5 though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
She's going to switch it.
Okay.
Thank you, David.
All
Thank
right.
you.
Well, please,
Excellent
please
work.
vote. Thanks,
Thank
Chris.
you. I like all the creative thinking.
Okay, the next item is compensation for early childhood screening.
So the compensation, this kind of aligns with what we talked about just a little bit in personnel. And really, we're trying to work our way through this, and we want to make sure we're doing it right. And so kind of have some patience with us as even ourselves, we work our way through this and make sure that we're doing this in a way that's appropriate.
We approved that in personnel, didn't we?
No,
No.
remember, I took it off
Oh, you
the
took it
hourly.
out. Move it here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have some new information for you if we're unable to pull up the Word document that Maria provided. So I need to,
This is early childhood.
yes.
Sorry, it's okay. I didn't get what we doing for it.
I'll give a little background information first. I think it's pertinent to want to take an opportunity when we can to lift up our staff and our partnerships. Each spring we do a very large early childhood screening, and it's a partnership between our school district, parents as teachers, special services, Head Start, and Success by Six. So it's a variety of community organizations, and it is well organized by Tammy Flowers, our coordinator of early childhood education. Deb Coons is very vital to this. So it's very worthwhile. They screened approximately 420 preschool students. And some of the benefits that come from this that I included in the information that you could see in the background information on board docs. But in addition, I wanted Maria to talk a little bit about what she posted in terms of the necessity of having registered nurses there.
Yes, well, what we do in the role as registered nurses is we initially will bring those students in and we'll do a basic hearing screening followed by height and weight and a basic dental check. And then we do a basic vision screening on these little ones. And this year we screened again, as Denise said, approximately 420 some students. In addition, we referred 138 to the dentist because they hadn't been, or they had caries, or they don't have access to Medicaid, and various other reasons. So that was just one group. We also screened 13 for vision concerns, 3 for hearing. We find those kiddos. We also check immunizations to see where they're at. We're trying to make sure as these little ones progress that they're kindergarten ready when they get there. And if not, we can get them into the correct services. So we screen and we find a lot of things, and we refer them to physicians, those without physicians. We've had a lot of people moving into the community. And from the survey that they gave out, parents thought the best thing was the staffing, the relationships they were beginning to build, the way people treated them. And so it's very important, I believe, that we have the professional staff there. We do it for a week, and one of those days includes a Saturday. So we call in staff on a day that they're supposed to be with their family and to provide these services. And I'm just looking at fair compensation for my nurses. And I try to utilize as many of my substitute nurses on those days as possible to keep my nurses in their buildings. And so I did have to utilize my nurses on the weekend and one nurse on her day off. So that's kind of what Denise and I are bringing to. Oh, I'm so sorry. I took his chair. Move out of your way. And so that's kind of what we're approaching you about, and I'll turn it back over to Denise on that.
So back to the rate of compensation, when I had originally posted this, and I provided some of the information, and there's one minute. I pulled it inside. I'm sorry, ladies. That's okay.
Take his chair.
Go take your Martin here. That's right.
Okay, Martin.
So what we have done previously is for our professional staff is that we, if they worked past 3:30 or 4, because we're open to families in the evening and on Saturdays, we would take their daily rate and prorate it down to an hourly rate for the hours that they worked. And that was initially what we were requesting. We have been educated well by Wes just in the last day. We realized that that is not the best way to do it, that we need to set a flat rate for professionals that are working this type of extra duty. So,
So is it considered overtime?
No, it was in addition to their work.
It's something separate.
Yes.
Well, overtime is for hourly.
Correct.
Oh, it's because they're not hourly employees.
Right.
Got it.
So it's and in essence, it's a stipend.
Yes.
I mean,
Yes.
if you want to look at it, it's extra duty,
But this
extra
is, yeah, because this is
Some are
just
just fine.
flat rate.
one time
Flat rate.
Yes.
during the year. It's just that 1 week. So it's,
Yes.
it shouldn't be much, it should not amount to be a
Yeah.
huge.
But I need to correct how I had requested that they be compensated.
Okay.
What we have done before and what we had told the staff, because they were assuming things would be as they have been, that their daily rate would be prorated per hour that they worked. So we understand now that is not the best way to do it, that per position that there needs to be a flat, like he said, like stipend. So what I did, the information you have here that you'll see my handwriting, is I asked Christine, the business office, who is delightful, by the way, to get us the information we need very quickly. I took the employees and I have marked out their names for their privacy. She's figured their daily rate. She's divided it by a 7.5-hour workday and has come up with an hourly rate. So I have provided to you what, if you look at the nurses, the highest nurse, their rate would be $33 an hour. Or if we took the average, it would be $32 an hour. And then I did the same thing with the speech therapist. And the reason why there's quite a bit of difference there is that the first speech therapist has been with us probably 20 years. And the other speech therapists are first and second year employees. Then special education process consultants, the average and highest is within $4. And for the teachers, theirs was the same. So it's not appropriate for us to individualize it, if I understand from Wes correctly.
Yes.
Yes. That we need to instead select
An amount,
a
flat amount.
A flat amount.
For a stipend for doing this job.
Yes.
This after-hours job.
So if you averaged it, would that be the fair place to be?
I'm offering you that choice.
We get to decide, she says. So, well, okay.
So do you think that everyone would be okay with that? Because
Well,
if you take the
The higher
average,
paid
then
ones
the
won't like
higher
it very
one-
much, right?
You know, it's, what I guess originally was out was something I just don't think we would get nurses back next year to help with, if I was going to be honest.
Okay,
I think
Bo?
it was looking at like $15.
Can I get Bo to chime in?
Yeah, I just want to address a few things. This wasn't in the state audit, but nonetheless, it's a significant issue that the district has had for many years, is not following federal labor laws on a multitude of areas that perhaps weren't even in the state audit. But one of the particular issues is taking salaried employees and paying them based on their hourly rate. It comes in this gray area as to, okay, are they now salaried or not salaried? Anyway, so I want to credit Wes, and this perhaps was probably addressed by Kim Mullaney as well, but just there's never been any oversight and proper control of the payroll. But I want to take a minute to credit Wes to make sure that we're not doing these improper things moving forward. We've paid people, salaried people based on their hourly rate, and it's not proper. Another point, though, that I would make is you asked a question.
That makes a lot of sense. I just wanted, but I hadn't. That makes sense with you saying that. Helps me understand some of the audit better. Put that too. So
right.
Thank you.
And so another point I would make is you asked, is this fair? And so the St. Joe School District, as we mentioned earlier, has hundreds of extra pay rates that we've even identified this year that we thought we had addressed last year. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. It makes it unnecessarily complicated. And so you asked, is this rate fair? Well, I can tell you what other school districts our size do. There's two rates for extra pay, $15 an hour and $21 an hour. Okay, and so that's what they do. And whatever extra duties, you're either on that scale or that scale. So I would like to see us address these things moving forward. We'll save money by reducing some of these expenses, but we can't continue to manage an extra duty list with 100 different hourly rates for all these different things. I just wanted to take a minute to talk about this.
In the meantime,
Right.
In the meantime, yes.
and that's part of our thing of bringing these things all to you from the get-go. So let's find, if it's not, I'm sure that the payroll and the business office would love to have just two, but if we got to have 3 or 4 or 5, let's limit it certainly to the range that is there, because it does complicate things.
Well, I'll give you.
But at the same time, if this is the way it's been done in the past and they did the work for the expectations, how can we simplify it and still, be fair to the employees without them knowing up front that, hey, in August, ideally, Bo and Wes, they'll have, here's the five rates, and in their training, they'll say, whenever you guys do this, know that or 3 rates or 2 rates. It's either going to be this one or this one. And so, we can all be on the same page.
Well, and the rates we've actually set in motion for 15 and 16. So what I propose is over the next year, we address all this, simplify it for the 16-17 school year. But Another issue that we have to address immediately, though, is, and this is another example of how something happened in the past. We've had principals that tell some of their staff, "Yeah, go do this extra work, and I'll pay you X amount after taxes." Well, if you can imagine how hard that is for my payroll accountant to manually do all that. But the point is this: we have to real quick get our administrators to understand they don't have the authority to go out and tell people they're going to get paid this. They shouldn't be communicating those things. There needs to be a centralized process. Wes, over the next year, is going to be improving all these procedures to make sure principals don't have the authority to go out and tell somebody this is what they're going to make. And so rest assured we're going to be addressing this. But it's something that, it may not specifically have been in the state audit on some of these labor law issues, but they do exist, but we're working our best to fix some of this stuff.
Well, I have a question. When people are a salaried employee, that does, in the business world, imply that this is what you're going to get paid, but you may have to work over.
Well, that would, and so Wes will tell you. And
So how does that
Wes is smiling in the background, so let me say what's on his mind. In his school district, the extra duties were expected and you did it. You didn't get extra pay. And I got to tell you, we're looking at some significant budget issues, as you guys know. And so we need to, in other school districts, this is part of your job, it's part of your expectations. But
Okay, well, if we apply that same thing, then we should make their salaries commiserately more for removing.
Well, it depends on what the expectations are, but salary. It's all unique and it's all complicated. But things to consider.
Well, it's just, I just know in the business world that if the 40-hour work week's over, if the work's not done, then you're still going in and you're getting it done.
Very good.
Other duties as assigned.
Very good point.
But if we're going to do that, we have to add it in to their salaries, because that's what we did with administration when we roll up stipends.
Well, I totally agree, but I just.
So that's something we could do. That is something we could do with this. We could figure out how much extra that is and change these people's amounts.
So is it just these people that are listed here just by the numbers? We don't have names, but we have numbers. So is it like 4 nurses that do all the screening?
On the Saturday, I utilized 3 of my actual nursing staff.
Okay.
During the week, I used hourly wage substitute nurses.
Okay.
And they only make $17 an hour, bless their hearts. And so, they're different, but I'm just really talking about in my area. Now, I don't know on the speech pathologists and things like that.
Okay.
But in my area, I just utilized 3 nurses on a Saturday who thought they were going to get, the Saturday is not a normal working situation.
I
So,
understand.
and going forward, I'm cool with whatever you guys decide, but I think since they've already worked it, they thought
they've
they'd
already
be
done it.
compensated that.
And we
We've done the work.
didn't specifically have a pay rate adopted by the board previously that says
Correct.
pay X for this service. So that's what we're doing today. It's bringing yet another one for you to approve because it wasn't already previously approved.
Like we do Monday and Tuesday.
And guys, this is just all part of the growing pains we're going to go through for probably, another year. I know we've been through it all year long, and it seems like a lot, but these are just, this is the business that comes across, and so, it's part of the work in progress. So.
Well, and I also wonder too, and this is not to do with special services, so I don't know if I should even say it, but like the kitchen managers, should that be a salary position?
They're hourly folks.
Okay.
Should they be?
That's something to consider.
I don't know.
I'm just wondering.
Well, maybe all that can come out in the
Market analysis.
I'm sorry, I just thought of that.
comprehensive salaries.
If I don't say it,
Yeah.
then I forget it, so.
So this is work that's already been completed.
Correct. And again, we're getting involved, people, we ask them, hey, can you give us your, some time on your Saturday? And not everyone's going to want to give that time, so we're grateful for those that do. And I just think we have to compensate to get them to come in and help us.
Not all of them
everybody
do
does
it.
it. Correct.
No, not all of them.
And
So that's what I'm wondering, would you know
That's why
at
that's
the
what's
first, because this is what I'm thinking is if we're going to try to roll this into somebody's salary, how would we know who to roll that
No,
into?
you can't do it that way. Yeah, I thought they were all taking turns. I didn't realize you wouldn't be able to do that.
There was no way
It's
you
a
would be
day
able
off,
to do
so
that.
it's volunteer.
Okay, so what's the frequency of this? Is this
Just
something
once a
that just once a year?
It does need to be a stipend.
So when
It's like
will it be-
$200 or something.
When does it occur the
There's-
next time?
It'll occur next March.
Next March. Okay, so we have a year to figure it out next year.
Yeah.
But they need to be paid for this.
Yeah.
Right.
They've already done this work, so I don't, we can't not pay
About
them.
5.5, I think is what came out.
And so
Each
what,
person
For the
work
particular-
different hours.
Yeah, that's true, because they did, with the nurses was 5.5, theirs was different.
Well,
How many, do you know how long yours folks were?
Yep. The 3 preschool teachers each worked 6 hours. The process consultants, that one I don't have. I do know all 3 were there all day on Saturday, or they were there 8 to 2 on March 21st, a Saturday.
That's 6 hours.
The
Long
SLPs,
days.
The week it was really long.
one worked an hour, one worked 2 hours. It looks like another one worked 7 hours. One filled in only an hour and a half. So we tried.
We tried, really.
It's volunteer, and you know, some evenings screening is open until 7 for families, and then other evenings it wraps up at 5:30. So really, the question on the table is, we are seeking your permission to, based on what was communicated to staff, generally on what Marie and I's practice of behavior and processes had been previously, was to pay them their prorated daily rate. I figured an average to make it, I believe, meet the standards of the business office. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to think about that. If you'd like to go with the average of those employees, those are there for you. There could be, I think it's warranted to consider that there's quite a bit of difference with a speech pathologist. So I'll leave it in your hands. I would either go with the average or the highest, and then next year we'll sort out something
What can it
appropriate.
be based on what the person makes?
That's the issue. That's the central issue, is that it's not standards of the business office, it's law from the federal government. You can't take a salaried employee and pay them an hourly rate. It raises issues as, okay, are they actually a salaried employee? And so we need to settle on a rate for this service, vote on it, and then we'll reevaluate the whole system as we adopt our next salary schedule vote.
I'll make a motion to do the average rate.
To do the average, the average.
Are we a second. Now can we discuss that? Are we going to make a stipend out of it, like $35 times 6, and figure out what that is and say that's what they get paid?
I'd say, since it's only a one-time thing and it's not an ongoing thing, I'd say we let
Additional pay rate?
Yes, we let them come up with one of those common additional pay rates where this one falls into that category.
I see. And you have a record of it this way.
And then Denise and Maria and Tammy and those folks can up front say, okay, here's the established additional pay rate by that the board's adopted. You got to choose one of these 3 ones, and so here it is, and then get the volunteers that's willing to do it for that amount of money up front.
Makes me think. As a former counselor, I know that there's registration done on evenings too. And so, I mean, I'm just saying that we may see an open door and for, you know, they certainly were expecting pay this year, and I get that, but that's something that we're going to need to address too, with equity. Yeah. Yeah.
It was, that's how it was identified in the information you looked at earlier, under your extra duty pay schedule.
For the
Counselors.
Yeah.
no, those are extra days.
Oh, those are extra days.
That I was going to say, okay, Ken Hill's still there.
Yeah.
Those are extra days that are worked before and after the school year, but those particular registration days are days that are during the school year that I know staff stays late to work.
Yes, they
The
have.
When the 8th graders are registering for high
Yes,
school?
now this year was different though, because we had, they have an 8th grade night, and they had an 8th grade night, I believe, I know they didn't each high school because I attended it, but as far as what took place the last few years at night, that went back to during the day, because we went to a uniform parent-teacher conference night where we had 2 nights of conferences. So that particular thing, if I think I understand what we're talking about, was based on this year, would not be an issue. But it has been in the past.
Right. And I was thinking more of when we have the parent come and do the 4-year plan. Those
Yes.
particular meetings.
Yes,
that
yes.
Aren't always during the day, they're offered at night for those
Right.
parents that.
Right,
But,
right.
I mean, I've been.
High school does it.
Well, but if we have one of these rates, then in the future, they would be able to be paid.
once in a while.
Right, that's what I was.
Or
Those are
it falls into the other duties as assigned
Right.
categories too.
But that's something that's going to have to be
Clearly
all
communicated.
Yes, yes. Which I think this is a great conversation because that's what it
It's
needs to
important
be.
to discuss.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the
This
past-
is the complexity of issues that, I mean, that really we're in and that we're dealing with honestly on a daily basis, that we're like, you know, it's just,
Where's it fall, where's it?
Yep.
And I'm out there, so it's nice, it's good to have the discussion because that helps us look at other employees that we want to also treat with equity too, so.
Well,
Anyway,
and I try that as a volunteer, that every once in a while, we all just take a hit with the team and we do a little bit just because.
absolutely, no doubt about it.
Over 20 years, I've
No
done
doubt about
that, so, you know.
And they do that too.
So I'm just saying, I want everybody to be compensated, but still, there's a little bit of that, let's give, and I'm just gonna do this just for the good of the team,
No doubt,
so.
no doubt about it.
Motion.
Any more questions?
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, a lot of discussion.
It was good discussion.
Hey, we're practicing voting.
Yes.
on-
Are you gonna-
Oh, yes, Laura, you get to vote.
Did you join the
computer.
team? Did you join the meeting?
Go ahead, go ahead and vote.
Oh, she's gonna.
she's got the motion.
There, the average.
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, no, or abstain?
Already did it.
There you go.
Good job.
Okay, Mr. Rucker, are you ready to take over this meeting, or do you want me to continue?
Mr. Rucker, do you want to chair this?
He looks pretty short down there.
I know, he's kind of.
You won't pop up for
I'm
it?
doing okay.
I'm good.
All right. Next item of business is partial roof, is that correct?
That's correct.
Mr. Silcott's here to talk about this.
Is this who you're
Part of the roof?
Partial replacement, yes.
They're not PDFs.
I looked at them, but, you know, it doesn't open and I can't refresh my memory. I'm not as young as I used to be.
Do you,
I'll switch it real quick.
That's okay, David.
I know, I don't know how mine opened, but I must have hit something that allowed it now to do that.
okay, well, this is the first project I'm bringing to you that is out of the 15-16 CIP schedule. There's 5 schools listed here. The largest project is at Central High School. So the base bid number 6, if you look at that, that is the combined total for all of the base bids. Okay. Then we also have some alternate bids. Let me walk you through those. So at Central we have 2 alternate bids. One is there's 6 skylights on top of the school.
Can I look with you?
Sure. There's 6 skylights located, and this section of the building is the old building, the main part of the old building. Now, if you walk down those hallways, it's that roof. Okay. There's 6. Yes, there's 6 skylights that also we would recommend to replace them. They're the old chicken wire glass.
Oh, that's right.
Right. And they're in pretty bad shape. I mean, they're not leaking right now, but we've done a lot of work on them. But it's time that if we're doing the roof work, let's get a bid to see what it takes to replace them.
Well, the thing of it is if you don't replace them now and then you go back and replace them, then you may mess up the roof
May damage the
that
roof.
you've already fixed.
That's absolutely
so
right.
That makes sense.
And of course, this chicken wire, it's no longer meets modern specifications. So the type we would go back with is an aluminum. It's almost like a hip roof where they come up and they meet in the middle, and then there's some strips. And then it's not actually glass. It's a clear. It's actually like an opaque polycarbonate. You may be aware of some of the skylights we have at some schools that are kind of like these domed, but these skylights are too big. We can't do that. So that's why they're kind of pricey, but we still
We're on the first one?
on the central, yeah, on the alternate bid. Also, base bid 1, alternate 2 is also just like base bid 5, alternate 1, which is metal coping. So what we're talking about is on when you you have the flat roof, and it comes up on the parapet walls. On top of those parapet walls, the old schools are built with like limestone caps, and it takes a little waterproofing to take care of those. Eventually, that breaks down, and then they want to absorb moisture, and then we get into problems with the breakdown. So what we've been doing is we've been replacing these roofs. Is we have the contractors called break metal over it, and so that sits down over the limestone caps, and it protects them from that damage. We had 4 bidders. Now, they're all local bidders except for Delta. They're from Kansas City. You can open it now.
Yes, I did get it to open.
Okay.
Oh, I noticed you changed the
Have we done any business with Delta before?
No, we have not.
How long have they been in business?
Well, I think they've been in business for a while. We talked to the local union rep, and he says they're very reputable. But here's the problem, is the specifications. We put down a certain type of roof, and you have to be a certified installer to put these roofs on. We've had really good experience with these roofs, and since we've been putting them on, we've been very pleased. Well, normally the life expectancy of a flat roof is about 20 years max. Because of our diligent maintenance schedule, we're really pushing that up to 30 years. We still have roofs in place, even though it's time, but some of those roofs have been put on in the late 80s. So several years ago, we went to this product called Derby Gum, and so in order to install that, you have to be a certified installer, otherwise the warranties are no good. Okay. All of the local roofing contractors are certified. Now, pardon me?
Delta's not.
They are not.
Oh.
The specifications were very clear that you had to be a Derby Gum certified installer, or within 3 days of the bid opening, you had to provide us with an alternate that we had to approve. At the pre-bid meeting, all of the contractors were also present, and Mr. Hopkins again stated that you'd have to be a certified Derby Gum installer, or. So they have the specifications, they were at the pre-bid meeting, we have the sheets to show that.
Okay, you have documentation.
Right, so then when we open the bids, and you can see that they are the low bid. So Mr. Hopkins contacted them to ascertain if they are in fact a Derby Gum certified installer. They are not. And we have an email chain going back and forth to confirm that. So that means that really it's a non-conforming bid.
Yeah.
We need to move to the next low bidder, which is Roberts Roofing.
Yes.
So now, if you just take base bid number 6, which is the combined total of all the base bids, the difference between Delta and Roberts is $69,235. If you move to the alternate bids, combined total of number 6, plus base bid 1, alternate 1, base bid 2, alternate 2, and base bid 5, alternate 1, then that difference drops down to $53,399. So it is our recommendation that we accept the low bid from Roberts Roofing.
Okay, hold on. You're doing all the projects together.
Correct. Now see, if you separate them, a lot of times you won't get this price.
They charge more. If they get the
A lot of the cost is the time they take to set up. They usually have to bring a big crane in.
So that's the low bid of the 3 that are certified.
The 5. Yes, that is correct. I'm sorry.
I move we accept that.
Hold on a second.
Of course.
And it's still under budget.
It is under budget. So the total would be $554,399. The budget was $600,000.
I assume the man. Excellent.
Are we doing this like on the cycle, or is this, some of this has to be done right now?
Yeah, and again, this is where triage and tin comes in place as well. All of these are pulled out triage and tin, and we don't just depend upon, well, this is the oldest roof, so let's do that one. I mean, we have an excellent roofer who maps out the roofs. We have all of the roofs mapped out. We know when they were all put on. We have a device that we use that you can scan the roofs to see if there's any wet spots underneath the roof, because that's certainly a problem, so you can't see those. Yeah. And so really based upon that criteria, these are the ones that we know are the most urgent.
My roof's leaking at Wesley. Send one of those guys down there.
No.
Not seriously.
He's joking.
I'm just joking.
JK.
I thought they had bars down there.
Is there
There's a motion on that.
In a second.
Is there an alternative plan for, if we say we decided not to do this right now? What would that what would that look like?
If we're not to do these now, you're asking what would be the ramifications of that? You know, they're in bad shape. They're not actively leaking right now. But we know that by the degree of the amount of maintenance we're doing on them, that the clock's ticking.
And then you end up with a higher cost if it does start.
Then you have collateral damage.
Yeah.
You know, then you start getting the leaks inside the building. It could be on computers. It could be.
Yeah, we've done it high. We got a leak up in that one.
And know this as well, because if you don't take care of them, and once that penetrates the top layer and it gets onto the ones that they have a metal deck, then if you get into that thing is rusted and you have to replace that, then this cost really goes up.
You gotta get buckets.
But this is already in money that we have already budgeted.
That is correct.
So, and it's under the budgeted amount that we anticipated.
Right.
So,
I
it's not new
understand. I'm
money.
just playing devil's
Yeah,
advocate.
absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think it's good.
I mean, if we're in a place where you're saying we just right. If we're in a place where you just say, well, we just can't do it, then we'll continue to care for them and do the best we can with them. Again, none of them are actively leaking at this point.
And so, with that being said, my next question is, what are your best guess is, how soon would we have to replace it?
Well, that's really hard to say, but I would say that it's anytime within the next year or two. We don't do them. And again, I would be afraid that we're going to pay more for it later.
So you're thinking that we're there right now?
I do.
Okay.
I probably.
Well, we've had years where we've got a lot more roofs than this. I mean,
That's true. I mean, well, there's probably 4 years ago that we had some extra money, and so we did one bid opening, and then several months later we did another one. One was, I don't remember, probably $500,000 or $600,000. The other was $1 million. Kind of helped us do some catch up.
you're doing some lights on this one too, right? I mean, this is including the lights.
Right, exactly. And this, you're probably talking about 3/4 of an acre of roofs that we're going to do. About 36,000.
Roberts has done good work before.
And we've always been very pleased with
I
them.
know Hausman's good too.
They are.
Shusky.
All the bidders that were local, they all do good work.
Excellent.
All right, motion on the floor, is that correct?
Wait a second. So you
Time to vote?
Second.
It's time to vote.
Yeah.
You're here again. Yeah.
Okay, so the next item is the condensing units for Lafayette and Benton. Their kitchens now at both Lafayette and Benton, they both have walk-in coolers and freezers. Okay. The condensing units are the units that sit outside. Both of the schools, the condensing units are on the roofs. Not a great location for them. They take a lot of wear and tear that way. Also, what we call is the line set, which is the Freon lines. I guess that's what the best way to make it understand. When they run from the units into the freezer and the cooler into the evaporators, which are the units inside that blow cold air. So those will all be replaced. It's a complete replacement of those units. They're at the end of their life cycle. They're costing us quite a bit of money in upkeep. We would relocate those into a place where they're easier to maintain. And these line sets, instead of going down through the roof, that's really hard to find if we
You have a problem, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So instead, it's where they're much closer and they're easier to troubleshoot. So they would be, at both Lafayette and they would be relocated.
Okay.
So, but we're not talking just about I say the condensing units, but it's the condensing units, outside units, also the inside units as well.
Okay.
So it's a complete replacement. Really. So we had 4 bidders, all local. The low bidder is a company called the Waldinger Group, and we are familiar with them. I don't believe they've ever done work with us before, although the gentleman that is their estimator is a longtime employee of IHP. We're very familiar with him. So they are the low bidder on both projects.
And they're all local.
They are.
We use them
Okay.
a lot.
Yeah. Been pleased with them?
Yes.
Good. Well, I would make a motion that we accept that low bid.
Second.
I might also add that this is also a project out of 1415. This is some of the money that we had left over that we're trying to spend down.
Yes.
Yeah, because projects come in under bid, so this is 1450.
And you're saving money with this too?
That's good.
It is.
This type of stuff, just kind of a reminder, you know, a lot of times we get it year end and we are going to not spend all the money we were allocated. Historically, we added to reserves and didn't want that, but you know, we were progressive in identifying projects since we were under budget other ways. We started that process 4 months earlier, and this is the result of that.
Can I
Great
ask
planning.
one question?
Sure.
Since we were talking about Benton, I've been told that their dishwasher doesn't, that the dishwasher in the kitchen didn't work very well. Is that something that we could check into?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have one staff member that's in charge of working on all the kitchen equipment.
Okay.
I'll check with him.
Okay. I just want to make sure that's up and running and properly and
We'll check on it.
perfect. Thank you.
Is your refrigerator ready?
Chris, don't go too far.
Is that it for you? Thank you, sir.
Chris, Chris, you may not want to go too far.
Surplus property?
You might as well
Yeah.
just.
So Chris, don't go too far, right?
Just hang out with us then.
Nice try.
When the school district built our two new schools, obviously we shut down noise and hall. And I think that the district's plan all along was we really saw no need whatsoever for hall moving forward. However, and Chris and I have talked, and we see absolutely no need for that property. So even in order to consider disposing of that property, we have to declare it surplus property. Okay, so all we're doing here today is basically having the board to make a motion to declare it surplus property to allow us then to go out and find a suitable buyer if we can find one. Of course, we'll follow board policy and state laws, and of course you guys would still have to approve that. So all we're doing here today is for you guys to formally declare hall surplus property. In the process, we've got a few other miscellaneous items that we no longer have a need for that we're declaring surplus property along the way as well. And so that's really
Costing us money.
Yeah, I would make that motion.
We're having a lot of vandalism there as well.
Second.
Yes, yes.
See a motion? You got a motion?
I made a motion.
Yeah, and Dennis a second, and we can vote.
So we can start on the disposal?
yes, and we obviously will keep the board in the loop, but this allows us to move forward and start that process, and we will certainly keep you in the loop. We don't want this school to fall in the hands of someone that'll not take good care of it and be a good neighbor to the neighborhood. And so anyway, we'll keep the board in the
Have
loop.
you considered the little piece of property out in the zoo?
Yes, we have actually, and
Because I think that was for sale at one point.
It was in the paper.
it was in the news the other day.
Yeah, this was years ago.
It's been for
No,
sale
the paper.
before.
I mean, it was in
Yeah.
newspaper.
That may very well.
Well,
We may very well bring that one back to you guys for consideration as well at
But
another
yeah,
time.
because I think that it's been at least maybe 2 years ago that I thought that it was for sale, and then there just wasn't.
Yeah, it was when the market was flat.
Yes,
It
and it's
just
kind of
wasn't-
rebounded.
The way I understand it, there was no interest.
Yeah, and so,
It's been for sale before.
yeah.
So I guess we know.
Okay, bills for payment?
Thank you, Chris.
Again.
Any questions on the bills for payment?
Painting was my bills. Let's see their painting.
The other painting, the 229.
Yeah.
It's in our office.
Oh, what am I looking
We need approval of bills for payment. Is that what you?
Yep, sorry. If you guys are waiting on me, your standard approval of bills of payment. You guys can let me know if you have any questions.
at? I've gone through.
I do have a question.
Which one?
I have a question under, goodness.
For you, the Visa card or the payments?
The payments.
Payments?
And, get off here. Okay,
Which document? The one that
The
says
payments.
the board report or no public or?
the no public.
Okay.
And it really is, it's check number, it's just on the first page, 2153.
Okay.
And so when you look at those again, it's you see those two items?
Yep.
And they're over 16,000, so of course that would come to us for approval, but since it's split up 7 and 9,
Right.
which is that kind of stuff that we've talked about before, and especially with this particular vendor too, so.
Yeah, Chris, I'll look into that. I don't know the specifics of those two checks, but they could have been for two different things.
But you know what? They go to the same school, doggone it, you know?
Well, there could be, and let me look into that and get back with you.
Well, is there any way that we could run some sort of a list of everything that we've done within the last year or two from that company? Because that way, because it sort of frustrates me because I look at that and I know that talking with
On the one with no
MSBA,
public, it tells you the school, yeah, go across.
even talking with MSBA when they're talking about, you know, sometimes people split up orders so that it's under that $15,000 mark so they don't have to bring
Sure,
it.
right.
I just don't want to have anybody thinking that's what we're doing. So if we could,
Well, because it's one check.
but that particular company just seems very odd that there's always multiple ones.
And also, let me get back with you guys on that. I don't know the specifics of these two checks. That might be for bond money, actually, for two different purchase orders for extra furniture. I'm not 100% sure, but we
Matching
will.
furniture that they may need more with. I don't know, that's just an assumption, but.
Does it say bond money on
It
it?
doesn't say bond money.
It doesn't say the detail that we post on the board. It doesn't give where we've coded.
Is that those ones we was talking about, the furniture bill?
I think it is, and they are two different things.
That we had to,
They do have two.
it's for the two different buildings, and they've been sitting out there to be paid forever.
Yeah, we're finally.
Are these for the same building?
For the same building?
Same building.
But I think they were the overruns, like you have a contingency whenever you do a bond for new building.
Yeah.
And, you know, for things that you just forget you're going to purchase.
And
That's what they were. They were just the add-ons to that was originally bid.
And I would.
We approved them already.
We have approved, and we have. You approved the original purchase order,
Right.
and I can confirm. No, I can confirm that these two amounts still fall within the original purchase order.
Right.
Oh, well, we do.
Because it
need
could
to
have been
have
his
that
cabinets.
Yes,
Yeah.
and Chris, can I ask you too, several times I've asked about the blinds for the two new buildings. Have we gotten anywhere?
Ordered and
with
being
this?
installed.
Oh, she's so happy.
Thank you.
That's
Thank
great.
you, thank you.
That's great.
And that was the only thing that stood out to me with those. So it will be really helpful if and when we move that board meeting and we get this information for longer than just a couple days
Yeah.
to go through it. So thank you.
So,
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
okay.
Sorry,
That's all right.
just keep no more.
I like doing this electronic.
Okay, paper supplies.
Okay, so every year about this time of year, we order paper and other supplies for our schools. I want to give a shout out to Michelle Deathridge. She does a fantastic job with this every year. It is it's kind of a monumental task. So many people quote it, and I also say Mark Colgan helps out as well, and his help is appreciated on this as well. The unique thing I want to point out to the group this year, this is a little bit different, and Michelle did a great job of putting this stuff together. But what we learned as we went through this year is the board has two different policies as it relates to local preference. And one of those is a $1,000 threshold if a local vendor was in $1,000. And the other one is, are they within 1%? Okay, and so when we learned that we've got inconsistent policies, it dawned on me that we need to give you guys two different options. And in particular, on this one, we had historically used the $1,000 difference threshold, which makes no sense when you're bidding on a $400 item. Somebody comes in at $400 and the next person comes in at $1,300, then we've awarded to the local vendor, which makes no sense. And I would suggest to the board that you land on a percentage so it's consistent. Anyway, so because of our two different board policies, we gave you two different options. And so the option of 1% is the best option. It saves about $13,000. Now, and then the other thing I'll note here, and the big item here is the paper itself. And so I'll walk you through that. The low bid was determined that we didn't like the quality of that paper, and so then we look at the next lowest bid, and but that's an out-of-town vendor. And so the next local bid from Clayton Paper was within 1% of the lowest high quality bid, and so in the 1% retro, we're recommending going with Clayton Paper for that purchase. And so, and we say our administrative recommendation says accept bids as presented. Our recommendation would be the 1% threshold file that you have in front of you. And with that, there is a recap in there that shows you how much is going to each vendor.
Oh, okay. That's one. Okay.
And again, that will save the district doing the 1% threshold. I think it was about $12,000 or $13,000.
Hey, Bo.
Yeah.
I have one thing to mention about Clayton Paper. We're talking about 7,000 cases of paper, 175 pallets, 40 cases per pallet. We've had issues with them in the past where they had said they were going to come and deliver paper and they hadn't shown up, and it took them about a week to get there. So we have to rotate all the paper out that we already have. So we're talking four pallets stacked up that we have to move out,
okay,
which can be a safety hazard. And while we're waiting for the new paper to come in, so we can put it in the back corner. And we're talking a mountain of paper here. If we do wind up going with Clayton Paper, I want to make sure that there's somehow that we can hold them to a date and make sure that if they don't meet that requirement, that they're accountable in some way.
Okay.
Because we can't do what we did before. Again, there's just too much risk there.
Okay.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good point.
Put that in.
Give them the time frame.
Because when you need it, you need it.
Is this for next year or is this?
That's right.
This is for 15-16.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then there should be some procedure, figures, so like if you talk to whoever and they don't show up, then what do you do? So the big boss who would have said, what are you doing? Get down there. Never knows about it. Then,
right. And it was actually the owner that I spoke with 3 or 4 times, and he said he consistently said that he would be there on that date, and he never showed up. And I know I'm not sure which of the brothers it was, but it was.
There's a bunch of them.
I think there's 2 of them.
Mr. Colvin, do we have a procedure in place to address that issue?
No, sir. We don't. As far as what we do if the paper doesn't show up, we don't. That's been the only time that we've ever had to deal with paper not showing up. Was through Clayton Paper.
How long ago was that?
It was actually print shop paper, and it was probably 3 or 4 years ago.
So recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't there usually with deliveries and things like that there's some sort of a fee or they, there's some, you have to give them some incentive to get it delivered on time, I guess.
I think what we can do is write in the contract a fee structure for tardiness and a fee structure for not delivering at all. There's got to be a penalty for putting us at disadvantage for our supplies. So I think we can get a contract written up for that and let the board take a look at it.
What does that look like from the bid? Since bids have issued, what does that look like?
Yeah.
If it wasn't an RFP?
Once we get done with here, we'll take a look at the specific RFP language. But I don't, Wes, do you see any issues with drawing up a specific contract?
It should have been in the RFP.
Let me pull the RFP language. I don't know.
If you wanted a penalty for not meeting deadlines, is it in there?
I think it
Okay.
is.
It should have been in the RFP.
It's already.
And so,
It would
Mr.
be the
Coleman,
same for everybody's contract, right?
Mr. Coleman,
Right.
question.
If
When we used this supplier before, were the penalties in the contract? In the RFP?
You know what? I don't know. I didn't have much say in who we went with, especially at that time. And I'm just kind of Michelle does most of it. I'm just kind of her helper when it comes to.
Do you know if there was
This
penalties?
is the first year we've ever done an RFP.
The language in the language in the RFP says, unless otherwise noted in the RFP, if merchandise is not received by August 13th, a 5% discount will be taken from the purchase price.
Ah, so it's in there.
It's there.
5%.
So the 5%.
And I would also add to, for the
And I'm
finance
all-
committee that
I'm all
this is exactly the type of
You
thing
just want there to be
purchasing
something there.
I
management should
just
be
want to make
handling.
sure my guys
We had
are that rich.
we had an admin assistant.
Good to know. That's a good thing about
that's completely fine. And they'll take a look at the RFP language as well.
So great, let's make sure that's in the contract for all
Yeah,
vendors.
So the next question is, from me, ma'am, is, how late was the delivery?
Before March.
It was probably, I'm going to say a week, and that's being conservative.
A week?
Yeah. It was probably quite a bit more than that.
And so,
But if there wasn't an RFP
5%.
before, we can't.
You can't go back. You can't
but
go
it
back.
probably should have a time
All we
frame
do
for it
is do
too,
what's now and move
if what they're talking about. I
We do
mean,
have-
so
we have
so
better
5%,
process.
whether it's a week or whether it's a month,
Yeah,
what's
most
the deal?
definitely.
You know what I'm saying? It's no
Yeah.
big deal.
And, you know,
Regardless, it's
as we
just
go
gonna
through
cost me
these
5%, so,
growing
you know, if
pains,
we
we will find
can.
these things that we have to change, and we will grow better.
Couple years from now.
Next year, it'll all be
So I propose in the next RFP that we put a time frame along with extended penalty. Because 5% now, whether it's 5 days or 5 months, what difference?
Yeah, that's true. There needs to be a time for
A
that.
graduated penalty.
Okay, so then I'll make a motion that we accept the lowest bid within the 1%.
And I would
Is
second
that
that.
correct?
Yeah, the only thing I'd add to that, Brad, is we go through individually and tell you, did we select it because of the lowest cost or quality or local vendor with a category of 1, 2, or 3. And so not everything in there is because of low cost, but there is a recap in there by vendor that shows you why we selected them. And for options 1, 2, or 3. But if you accept if you make a proposal on the 1% file, you'll get all of that.
Excellent.
I'll second. Sure, no,
We'll
sure.
do that.
So we have a motion and
And a
second on the floor.
Yes.
And thank you for the recap too. Appreciate that.
You're getting fast. Yes, beat me that.
He says he doesn't like the technology, but he's doing
Okay,
it.
I know how to shut it off.
Morton Meeting Counts Briggs Rob invoice.
It is, you guys got it.
I figured it was like 12,500 a month-ish.
So
Because
this-
it's over almost 5 a month.
So of course, 5 months.
Yeah.
And this is on top of the retainer that we're paying? or
Yes.
this is- Thank you, okay.
And let me also, if I can.
Because it's like 2,900 that we're paying a month with the retainer, right?
Yes.
It was
it's
in the check
2,700.
bag.
I would also tell you too, just so there is no, with the 2 legal bills you have presented, you're beginning to be significantly over your legal budget. And so my best estimate is you could be as much as $175,000 over budget when it's all said and done this year for your legal expenses. It's a little hard to estimate.
That's not.
But the good news is that we might be under budget for our fuel for transportation by an equal amount. And so, anyway, that's the good
Thank
news.
you, oil.
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
So that's the good news.
Big oil, isn't it?
So
That's
you
good.
got that's the
Big
motion.
So they'll just wash out.
Yeah.
We'll just have to make an adjustment, right?
Well, we technically don't.
We have a motion and a
There's a
second.
motion to approve in a second.
Who seconded, please?
Lori, me.
Lori.
Somebody in there.
I'm gonna start talking with her.
Somebody else like that, somebody's part.
I'm a vote.
Happy.
Did you see both?
Last I looked, it wasn't ready yet.
That was, there's Briggs.
I saw it.
Okay. And then there's, okay.
Okay. Payment of Spencer Fane.
Same thing.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
It is what it is.
Yep. Okay. Been moved and seconded.
Yep.
What's that?
Oh, Martin, did you vote?
That's-
There you go, okay.
I was getting to the page.
TP.
Yeah.
Hold
I'm
on.
interested in
Hold
this
on
one.
over here. Okay.
Can we just not get
Toilet
the cheapest
tissue
one?
and towels from Hilliard? What's that about?
What's the deal here?
Okay, so we opened bids last year. It's a 3-year bid for tissues and towels.
Okay.
So we write a blanket for that so that as we purchase them, then we pay off of that. We have come to the end of the blanket for the year. We think that the additional usage that we're seeing is really due to the new buildings. Those new buildings probably have 4 times as many restrooms as our existing buildings. They're modern. So what we're seeing is the volume's going out to the new buildings, and that's really what's making us spend a little bit more money. So normally we would just write an extension onto that blanket, but being that it's $14,000, and we talked to the business office, I believe that we should bring that to your attention, make sure that you approve that. So that's what we're asking for, is to be able to take that blanket and extend it out for what we think will get us to July 1. Which
So it's an
14,000.
estimate of what you'll need to get to July 1.
Correct.
So now, do we normally have this blanket?
Yes. Yeah. We have several blanket accounts, but that's how we always do. Instead of just writing them a check and turning it over to them, we pay them as we use the product.
Oh, that's good idea.
Right.
Good practice.
And it's bid.
It is bid.
They bid the product.
It is a bid, and we opened those bids last year. It's a 3-year bid.
It was a bid.
Yeah, I remember the 3 years bid.
So we gotta pay them as we order some in and stuff.
All right, and we just exhausted the amount for this year, so we need to take that out.
If we use more, like air dryers instead of towels, would that save us money?
Yes, it
Maybe
would.
dryers?
It would.
I mean, how much are we spending on towels?
The blanket for this year is $67,520.50.
And do we have the air dryers in
We
there?
don't have any, we'd have to buy them.
But
And of
that,
course, we'd have to not only buy them, but then wire them.
yeah, but over a period of time, no?
Then the trash and
Problem,
stuff.
we've had those in the past. The problem is vandalism.
It's what?
Vandalism.
Oh, they tear them up.
You bet. And we used to have a lot of them, and then they just get torn up and they're expensive to repair.
What about so the ones you're talking about vandalizing, those ones that had the little piece that twisted around and all?
Right. Hit the button and they come on.
And so the new air accelerators, they don't have those moving pieces.
Yeah. It's not just that though. I mean, they
Actually
just
knock them off the wall?
They just, yeah. They
I was just
beat them
curious.
up.
Well, probably.
Supervision in the restroom.
Yeah, the older buildings, you wouldn't be able to get the electricity to them.
No.
You wouldn't be able to wire them anyway.
Wiring.
But we talked about.
But did the new buildings have those already in?
Pardon me.
We didn't have them?
We did, I was going to tell you that we discussed that when we were designing the building, but we also knew that historically we've always had a problem with them, and vandalism is always a problem.
Yeah.
And that's why we decided not to go that route.
Okay, that's what we.
So we get our towel dispensers vandalized too, but they're cheap to replace. Is that the?
Actually, the contract is that they replace them.
Oh, see, there you go.
As part of the
Up to
contract.
a certain amount.
And so the vandalism, oh, I'm sorry, what you doing?
No, I was just saying that up to a certain point.
I believe there is a limit to that.
Yeah, because I think that there's.
But we really haven't had much of a problem with those. I don't know why it is they want to damage the one versus the other. I don't know.
So vandalism on the air dryers is in the elementary schools?
We have more of those in the middle and high schools. But again, it's just, our history is, you'd be surprised what the elementary kids can do to things as well.
I would have thought we would have leaned towards that in those schools because they're elementary schools.
Well, again, we did talk about it. The architects involved in that, all the design.
Are the hookups there in the new schools in case we want to go to that later or something?
Well, we can, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Right.
We'd have to put the wire in.
But we do have to run the wiring to them.
But
That's
it would be
correct.
easier to get to it.
But that, again, that's something that we can do in-house. If we decide to go that way, we don't have to hire somebody to come and do that. We can do that.
I would think the new schools, though, we would started out, Martin did with the new schools, started out with the air dryers.
Well, I would think.
They did though.
I would have thought that that's what we would have done.
I'll make a motion to approve the 14,000.
I'll second.
You get a second?
Second.
All right.
I didn't hear the first. Brad?
Chris.
Sorry.
All right.
We're
Talking it to them.
we know we got a lot to do here.
Well, if you're gonna build a new building, you gotta have.
Some hefty subjects still here, yeah.
Okay. Diesel quote.
Before you, our monthly diesel quotes, we continue to benefit from cheap fuel. We started the year with closer to $3 or even north of $3, and as you can see, your latest quote is awfully darn cheap. And,
About 192.
we're gonna again this savings in fuel will offset what we discussed earlier with the legal fees. So that's a good thing, and we certainly can't count on low fuel forever. So I'll have to figure out what exactly. I mean, we used to budget for like $4.15 a gallon for fuel, and you know, we've averaged, it looks like $2.50 or less this year. So this will probably be an increase next year, but we're really benefiting this year.
Great. I'll make a motion to.
I second.
Let's just 6 it, and then it'll be done.
I was looking at Candy, did you hear it?
I'll take responsibility.
Budget adjustments?
Yep. So on the revenue or budget adjustments, the big item here, and this just came in and is good news, is we have received a rebate check from Blue Cross Blue Shield in the amount of $721,593.
Good job.
Nice.
That is a product of I'm on the very first document right now. That is a product of having basically a healthy workforce, and our expense ratio was less than the minimum or the set forth in the Affordable Care Act, and so the insurance has to reimburse us for any additional savings. And this is not something that we budget for annually, and so therefore, since we had no budget for it, we're bringing you a budget adjustment. It actually was deposited in April, but this is indeed a very positive thing for us. It reduces our surplus by that amount this year.
So go back to the insurance.
I'm sorry.
It's back from
The 2004. This is for the 2014 calendar year, or maybe even plan year, and they have to go through all that calculation. But we could theoretically get one of these every year.
But to answer your question, you know, if our premiums end up going up, you know, overall 15%, I just threw that out there.
Gotcha.
Then you know, yes.
Yes,
I'm
I'm reading your mind there, but I thought I'd throw it out there on the same,
Yes.
right? Okay. Yep.
And then on the other budget adjustments, there's a line item. We have a miscellaneous accounts that their revenue exceeds budget this year by $301,000. That detail has been provided. It's some vocational revenue. Again, the board has asked me to kind of continually update you guys on revenue. Historically, we haven't really brought you changes, but every month we go through a routine and see, okay, we exceeded our revenue, our budgeted revenue, and that's what we're bringing you there. And so again, another good item. Other than that, there really aren't too many significant budget adjustments here. We did receive some additional money for adult education and some grants, and so you'll see some corresponding increases in revenues and corresponding increases in expenses for those items. But if you guys have any questions on what's been presented, feel free to ask. One other thing I'll throw in here is if you look at the file that is 14-15 budget and budget adjustment recap, we started the year with a $3.7 million deficit budget. As of right now, that is down to $4.5 million. And I can tell you that we will be, it looks like we will be over budget on both property taxes and to the tune of maybe about $500,000. Good thing.
Well, that's a good thing. Okay.
And then also state money. This continues to change monthly, but we might be over budget by $300,000. And so those, we don't have solid evidence of those things yet, but I throw that out there to you that we could be another $800,000 better than what you see currently. And again, we bring this to you every month. It's always a moving thing here as we have better information. But good news.
Always like good news.
Thank you.
So I would make a motion to accept those budget adjustments.
Second.
Any discussion?
Thank you, Bill.
Yes, thank you very much.
Oh, sorry.
Slowpoke.
Dang it. My turn.
Okay, next is financial statements.
Financial statements in the same format as you receive each month. Happy to entertain any questions anybody has.
motion to accept?
So moved.
Second.
I'm good, there's a lot of numbers there, but they.
Second.
all good, yes.
We'll get a second.
And Lori.
Lord did, right next to me.
Oh, do I make the motion?
Hold on a second.
You said it.
Dennis made the motion.
No, Mark made it. Or no,
Dennis.
you made the motion.
I made the motion.
I seconded her motion.
Sorry.
So Lori made the motion?
I heard it the other way around. I know Dennis.
We're a comedy
We
team.
just know that, we just talked about.
I called some kid nervous, you know, they said, who's that?
Right, glad you have it
Oh,
right,
I'm
sir.
sorry.
It's your turn. I'm sorry, I would rather do it.
We're having way too much fun with the electronic voting.
We should have done this years ago.
We've done a lot of voting today.
Okay, new purchasing guard program.
Okay, so I've got what I would perceive as some more good news. Our purchasing card program, as you know, we issued an RFP a month or two ago, and we only received one response, and the program we didn't feel was a good one that provided for no potential rebates to us.
Right.
And so, and we had some local banks that decided they didn't want to bid, and so we were a little disappointed. But I decided I could tweak the RFP a little bit, and we were a little bit more open and upfront about what's in the state audit. We were able to tell the banks that we had a purchasing manager coming on board to oversee the program, provide more oversight. And then what we did also differently was we promised to deposit money with a winning institution to give them a little bit more comfort to do business with us. And so we received five. We received 5 proposals, and listed that we received proposals from U.S. Bank, UMB, PFM, First National Bank, and Citizens. And we go through and evaluate the controls and the website and just the general administration of all that. But then also we would like to know how much rebate we would get based on our annual spend. We spent $2.5 million over the last 12 months, and so we asked the bank what our rebate would be given that amount. And U.S. Bank came in quite a bit higher than everybody else with a potential rebate of $35,250. That is almost twice as much as the rebate program that we have under Commerce Bank. And so, so this is again could result in a lot more savings to the district. And then as we have somebody overseeing the program, we can kind of be proactive and look at, okay, what are we not purchasing on our credit cards that we could? And we can
Let's cut down on the number of those cards.
And that's another thing too is we don't think we have a need for 150. And so as we get into implement this, we will be looking at that exactly. And even there's different ways that we can administer that. And we could check out travel cards to people only when they need it. And so again, this is another good reason why the purchasing manager. And so anyway, as soon as we get the approval. We've got till June 1st to implement this, and we'll be looking at all things to provide better oversight of this program. But our recommendation is U.S. Bank.
A second.
And
U.S. Bank.
And and the limits, you'll look at the limits on each of those cards.
Absolutely.
Because I know that the audit, I think, is there one with
Yes, they talked about
50,000?
Yeah, that's your AP clerk bill, that one.
That one has to stay.
Yeah, we'll have one card.
Well,
That $50,000 one
okay.
is ours.
And in fairness, they said you just need to look at that and make sure that's what you want. They didn't
That
say
makes sense.
Right.
Yeah,
They
absolutely right.
didn't say there was any wrong or any
They got more power than you.
expenses or.
Well, that's because you're not there for the
So,
finance
yeah,
part.
that makes a big difference.
They just said be aware of that, pay attention to that.
Thank you. For that.
Very good. More good news.
Okay.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Hi. Go for it.
Okay, so, you ready for me? Okay, so this was I can sense what's coming here, and I understand. So okay, we put out for bid our external audit services. We've been with Westbrook for quite some time. We advertise it as required by law. I can tell you I personally emailed out this RFP to probably 10 different CPA firms that are the big 4 and the big regional firms. And we didn't have very much luck getting people to give us a response. We only had 2 proposals. One was from Westbrook, who is currently, obviously our current auditor, and another firm, KPM, out of Springfield, Missouri. The prices are significantly different. Westbrook, because of their familiarity with us, and they've been doing it a long time, and they're specialized in schools, they're significantly cheaper. Almost $8,000 annually with a 3-year savings of I said 35,000. I don't know if that's a typo. Maybe more like 25,000. Anyway, to me, you guys do what you want. Not going to hurt my feelings. We have budget issues, and honestly, I look at our external audit as a commodity. In that the external account come in and says, hey, your financial statements are accurate at year end, and if the board chooses to go with the other firm, it won't break our heart. But we would save money by going with Westbrook. Anyway, I'll turn it over to the board. Any questions for me?
Question. Are there parameters that we can set for the auditors that we have not done in the past that would maybe keep head off problems that we
that's kind of my question was, as far as the RFP, did it ask for things for them to do differently than what they've been doing?
No, it was still the same basic external audit. And Wes is here to chime in on what that looks like. But one point I would make is if you went with Westbrook and saved the money, that would free up more money to perhaps do a different agreement with them to do more forensic audits or whatever. I'd also like to think too that we are definitely making improvements on our internal controls. We have been since I arrived, but we certainly could ask them to do more things. It may be a different engagement, and it would certainly cost us more money. But that's definitely an option, is to do more than what's presented in the external audit standard agreement, and it would just cost more money.
So then it's a possibility. Then we could spend, say, the 35 that KPM wants, but get more for the 35 with Westbrook.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what he's saying. Right.
Yeah.
And the thing of it is that I've talked to several different people that are in that accounting world, and they said, because I was like, I point blank asked the woman if they looked for fraud, and they don't. But talking to other people out in the community, they said that's not what the purpose of this is. This is more of an organizational.
It's a verification.
And two,
it's a financial audit. They come in, they verify your revenues.
Yes.
They did what their scope of their audit was. A lot of the issues that the state auditor found is not within their scope. That's not what they're hired to do. They're hired to check what we bring in revenues and make sure we expend them correctly.
Yeah.
Now, they don't check our board policies to make sure that everything was brought to the board and approved, and all those procedures is what the state audit found.
She checked minutes and all of that.
Well, she checks minutes on specific motions, because you have specific motions where you spend your federal programs. All those financial statements have to be approved before they're put into your budget. That's what they're looking for when they check your audit.
So what Westbrook is bidding here and what KPM is doing is they are the exact same thing.
Right, exact same thing. And now, if you want the additional, you're asking for, the additional fraud checks, you would have to, it'd be another RFP, and you would have to actually bid out exactly, specifically what you want them to look for. And a fraud audit is going to cost you a lot more money, because if you look at how long the state was in here looking for fraud, it takes a lot of time to look for that stuff. So, it's going to cost you a significantly more amount of money to do a fraud audit every year. Not saying not to do it, I'm just saying it's going to cost you a lot.
But they're going to do the exact same thing.
Some of that stuff that's on the state audit, they should have found something. Too many credit cards,
Well,
but that's not what they're checking. They're not checking that kind of stuff.
But even with the state audit, they were questioning that there wasn't enough checks and balances with those purchase cards. That's what their red flag was, and not everybody needs to have one. So.
But you can do a fraud audit. You can have a fraud audit. Somebody comes in, doesn't have to look.
But you've got to, you've got to have.
You have to,
It's required.
Yeah, you're required.
We must have one of these done.
Are required to approve their audit.
You would really want to pay $8,000 more to have a different company do it.
Do the exact same thing as Westbrook.
Just because they're not the company from before.
Now, what does this mean?
You don't know what they do that's different than Westbrook. So how can you compare that?
Really, we get the issue.
Maybe someone different coming in, yeah. Different
We
eyes.
get the issue, the RFP was sent, you know, I don't know what we would have to do per our policy to not go with the low bidder.
Well, we always have I think board policy always allows, to be selected to choose whoever, and especially when it comes to something like this. I want to reiterate, it's not going to hurt my feelings to go with KPM. I just feel like, in my position here, it's like, okay, we have budget issues, at 25, and I also want to mention that this 3-year savings or 25,000. I think I fat fingered the savings in there and typed 35,000, but they're about $8,000, $9,000 annually, and it's 25,000 over 3 years.
So I make a motion to accept KPM for 1 year.
Second.
Okay.
For what? For 1 year?
Yep.
The other company.
And
Can we do that?
yeah, we can. And it's written in a way that allows us to opt into years 2 and 3 should we choose.
I was going to say that's what it said. Agreement with 1 year renewal options.
Oh, okay.
And then if at the end of the year that they
Well,
do
there may
the
be
exact
some
same
benefit
thing.
to having somebody who hasn't looked at our books before take a look at it too.
I'm kind of on that, is that we need to have somebody else to do it once, at least, and see if we can find, if there's anything else.
We'll
we
get
can
him
find.
for the
If they find
Then you know that, it's just like a lawyer. They're going to find something different than somebody else did. They're going to find something.
It's like
And
the
that's just-
best way to be
That's
accountant
just
is
the
go to
nature
your
of the
dentist.
beast.
Did you do any reference?
Because everybody does it
We
different.
need to change.
I didn't know if there is anything
Yes, the
there.
second one, Brad.
We vetted them, interviewed them, so to speak. So
Okay.
we're comfortable with what's going with KPM.
With KPM.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion is to go with KPM?
Yes,
1 year.
for 1 year.
With an option.
And then we'll
Oh, I see what you're saying. I didn't scroll down to see the 35.
Wow, that's good. Fat fingered that.
Okay, the next thing is the Oak Grove childcare, is that correct?
Yes, I'll do that. So I just want to bring a conversation to you that you all know that we partnered with the Y, and they have a center at Oak Grove in which they provide services there for us. We partner with the preschoolers. One of the things that during the construction of their site was, I don't know if you visited there, they have in one corner they have a very small kitchen that was put in there. And as part of the discussions, the plan was that we would eventually put a kitchen in there that they were capable of being self-contained. In other words, they could use their kitchen and not have to use ours. Currently, they go into our school, into the Oak Grove side, and utilize our kitchen and our food services. We've never gone ahead and completed the kitchen. If you go in there right now, what we put in there is basically a short counter with a sink. So like they don't have the dishwasher and the stove, that kind of stuff was never completed. So I've been working with Mark Cartledge, and here's one of the issues that we are faced with, is that their program is a 12-month program, so they're there all year round. Well, we'll be there for summer school. We won't be serving lunch at Oak Grove for summer school. However, his program will continue to serve lunch. So there will be nobody in our kitchen to prepare the food for his students, which is what we've done this year. There are food service people prepare the food that goes into that center. So for July and part of June, for summer school in July, they would either we either need to open up and give them access to our kitchen, to use our kitchen, their staff, or we need to go ahead and finish out their small kitchen. And so to finish it out, it would require that we put in a residential type stove, 4-burner stove, and then a commercial style dishwasher. It looks just like a regular dishwasher, but it's commercial instead of. That's for their licensing. There's certain things they have to have, so it's got to be and the reason it has to be a residential stove and not a commercial is because commercial requires a hood, and licensing doesn't want a hood. So at any rate, in order for someone to go in there and to put the cabinetry in, to fit a dishwasher and a stove and the pantries, for them to use a kitchen and serving countertops and stuff like that, we began talking with Chris Zelcott and whether or not his team was capable of getting in there and doing that work. In the meantime, Mark Cartledge, director of the Y, had the Dillon Company come in and look at the kitchen and say, okay, what would it cost for you to come in and get the work done? At that point, we brought Chris in, and we looked at what Dillon Company was saying that they would do and the cost and the timeline, asking if our team could do it as fast and at the same cost. Chris does not believe that his team, unless it's changed as we discussed it, doesn't believe his team can get it done in the time frame that we need for June, for summer school to start. So what we're asking is, the bid's going to come in under $10,000, so it would require three bids, a minimum of 3 bids. What I'm simply asking today is that, are you okay with us moving forward to have our team get those 3 bids? We already have 1 from Dillon, we get 2 more, and then it would obviously come in less than $10,000, and we move forward to get that project done and put to rest.
And that comes out of bond money.
I don't know, that would be a question, whether from a CIP.
No, that wouldn't be long-term improvements, so no. And the question is whether or not, you're talking about like, it would probably come out of, and I'd ask Wes, as Fund 4 or even operating revenue. I don't think it
couldn't be bond.
It couldn't be bond money because of the new school?
Well,
Because we
but
were supposed to put it in there, we just...
they need to have a life of many years. And you mentioned earlier residential
Stuff. Oh.
yeah. You know, the question is, are those, Wes, you want to weigh in on what fund that would hit?
I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention. Maybe be honest, I didn't hear what you were. So you're building a kitchen?
Yeah, but there's like a little bitty kitchen in the preschool.
There's a preschool at the new school.
Right.
We told the Y who runs it that would give them a
It's in the
kitchen.
new construction, and we just did not
You
finish
should
the
use your
kitchen.
bond, the original bond money if it's new construction.
Yeah.
You're still within your year, so you should be able to use your bond.
Let's get that in there.
Okay.
How come we didn't finish it in the first place?
Quality.
It was, I'm just going to be honest with you, it was
Probably
the
not
time that
requirements.
Mr. Hardigan was overseeing that piece, and
Probably
there was some
couldn't
headbutting going on
provide.
between
Cabinetry.
Mark and Rick, and it just never got done. That's just
Yeah,
the
there was
truth.
some issues.
Oh my God, let's get it done.
One thing I will say is we'll figure out exactly where it needs to be coded, and it will be within budget, whether it's Fund 9, Fund 4, or Fund 1.
You good?
Okay.
So
I would do
right
that.
by
We
the
should
next
do that.
board, not this board.
Look
but
at
the
Lowe's and
next
Home
one
Depot.
down.
Listen, Dylan
Yeah,
can
so we'll get 2 more bids, make sure that we have 3 bids, and then we'll bring
Get
these.
that done.
Excellent. Good work.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. And last but not least,
The big one.
Do we need a drum roll for
Had a
this?
discussion.
All right, so this is probably obviously no surprise to any of you here on the board, but our 63-cent operating levy is set to expire if it's not renewed by August, which is when we set the tax rate every year. If it's not renewed by August, we will lose it for the entire 15-16 school year. And so our deadline is the end of May in order to come up with ballot language should we choose to have an August election. And so today, this is an item of information, it's for discussion. And these are the things I think the board needs to discuss as we look at the levy. Should there be a sunset clause? If there is going to be a sunset clause, what is the length of that sunset clause? Obviously, we have to determine the amount to ask for. Another thing here, I think I mistyped this, but we have the option of doing an operating levy or a capital projects levy. I'll discuss that in a little bit more detail. And then there is always the option of a Prop C rollback waiver, and we can talk about that if the board's interested in that. I go on to give you a little bit of detail about what our rate is currently. If it's not renewed, the district, well, that will be almost a 17% decrease in our local property tax revenue. Obviously, a big hit, and that's somewhere between $6.4 and $6.5 million annually. So that's it. So those are the 5 items I think the board needs to discuss. We will, hear what you guys have to say, and if the board wants to go run an election in August, we can have ballot language back to vote on next month.
What's the Prop C rollback?
Okay, so and I'll talk in simple terms about the Prop C rollback, and then Wes, and if you want to get more technical, Wes can expand on that. But many years ago, the state started to fund public education with sales tax, and when they did that, Wes, I'm just going to defer to you.
Come on, Wes. Just come on up.
He can't hear us back there.
No, my
We
kids
can't
were
hear
texting
him.
me and I wasn't paying attention. I apologize.
it's Friday
Um,
at 4:30.
Prop C rollback, I think it was 1985. The state came in and said, if you roll your property tax back 1%, we'll give you additional sales tax money. But property hasn't gone away, it's still there.
Okay.
And we still get that every year. And if you look back historically, back in those years, you can see where your property tax, you voted to do that and then you roll it back. So taxpayers were getting a tax break for all these years. At one point at a time in the last, whatever it is, 30 years, 40 years, you guys have decided to do a partial rollback because now it's sitting at 50 cents. So if you vote, put it on the ballot, and they vote to do the full property waiver, then you would get that other 50 cents back. What is it, 50?
Yeah, and I think I put in there, yeah, so a property rollback waiver, if the voters were to approve that, would in essence be a 50-cent tax increase permanently.
Yeah, and it would not sunset like your current 63-cent one does.
Are we like one of the very few
school
districts?
Very few school districts out of the 500 plus don't have one of these.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Most people roll them. Where I came from 4 or 5 years ago, we got ours finally passed. It took several years, but we finally got them to roll it.
So,
as far as it's going.
And just to get a little technical here, we have an authorized tax rate ceiling, but we can't reach that ceiling because we don't have this waiver. And so you get the waiver, then you can increase your tax rate by 50 cents. It gets kind of technical, but at the end of the day, it would be like a 50-cent tax increase permanently.
So if you don't have the rollback, then you can never get to the ceiling of what?
If you don't have the rollback waiver, yeah, that's...
You've got to do the voluntary rollback thing every year when you do your tax, when you have your tax hearing.
And that's what they do now.
Yeah, in August. When we have our tax hearing in August, it's one of the lines on there.
Yes.
I'm sure you guys have never seen it because it's very...
It's actually another page.
Yeah, it's a whole nother page, and it's I don't imagine you guys have ever seen it. It's a very complex calculation. And they always just bring in, this is what our new rate's going to be. I'm assuming.
Yeah, that sounds... So the waiver is something that has to go to the vote of the people?
Yeah, they would vote to do a full property waiver. And you can do partials. Most people, they just go ahead and ask for the whole thing. That way you just do it once and be done with it.
Yes.
What's the advantage of the waiver over what?
You get the 50 cents forever. It doesn't sunset. So you get the money back. And when they changed the formula in 2008, if you at that time, if you'd already had the waiver, you would have actually been receiving more money now. Because when they changed it at the time, in 2008, when they changed the formula, they wanted everybody to be at 343. Well, see, you guys weren't there because you didn't have your waiver. So you got a little bit less. And when I say a little bit, I don't know without looking at it how much you would have received less. But now if you pass it, it doesn't benefit you. At the time, it would have, but now all you're going to get is the 53 cents. Or 50
cents.
It's 50 cents. It's roughly, it's right around 50 cents. But it's still, it's forever. It doesn't sunset anymore. Once you get it, then you
And that's something that's already being collected.
Where does that 50 cents set?
No, the taxpayers aren't paying it.
Okay, so we're not paying.
Right, because it was a rollback.
Okay.
When they gave you the Prop C money, yeah, I know, it's a complicated
I
thing.
think
And
everything
this is part of the issues, I mean, that some school districts have in passing it because of how complicated it is to explain it to your taxpayers and your voters.
See, it was initially set up by the state to give more state money. They increased sales tax. That's where your Prop C money comes from. So they increased the sales tax, say, hey, we're going to increase sales tax, we're going to give you this if you roll back 1% of your property tax. It was to give your taxpayers throughout the state a break in taxes. That's right.
But we've just continued it.
We've just continued, yeah. At one point in time, they had, I think, several years ago, the state said, okay, we want everybody to be at a minimum of 275. Well, at that time, you would have had to do a partial Prop C rollback in order to get to the 275. Otherwise, you were going to lose state money based on the formula that was calculated.
So is that why we did that probably then?
That's why it isn't at 1% now, because at one point in time, when they changed it to 275, if you didn't at that time roll it back partially to get to the 275, then you were going to lose state money. See, and that's kind of what, that's the Prop C thing. If you can get that to pass, that's the best way to go first. But you're probably going to have a better chance at the 63 cents if you do the sunset thing. But then you're going to, in 5 years, you're going to be doing it all over again.
Yeah, that sunset just is...
It's kind of redundant. I mean,
But
taxpayers are more apt to do that because, hey, it's going to go away. That's why a lot of districts get the sunset stuff.
Well, and particularly locally, I mean, they know it. They know the 63 cents. They know it's got a sunset. So there's not that whole education piece that would come along with the property.
Either way, it's still an increase in taxes.
yeah.
One sunset, one doesn't.
Well,
That's what you're asking your
but
voters to
Wes, but no, but let's be clear. The 63 cents is not an increase in taxes. It's maintaining current levels.
Yes.
Obviously, and then the Prop C rollback, if you just did Prop C rollback and let the 63 cents expire, then actually you're taking a decrease to the voters because obviously 50 cents is less than 63 cents. And something else to think about on the Prop C rollback is it is confusing, as you can learn right now. It's confusing, it's technical, and some districts like Columbia have put the Prop C rollback on year after year after year, and they could never get it passed. And so finally, just went and asked for a tax increase the normal way and got it passed. So the Prop C rollback is inherently a little confusing.
Well, didn't we do some polling back in November if we put the levy out right from Land Resources, and didn't that come back like 39% said that they would vote yes?
That's what I remember.
Do you remember what it was?
I think it was 39%.
Yeah.
So
And
that was
good.
before the state audit and all, right?
It was
Yes.
in October that we did this.
Yeah.
And
I
that was
just-
with the sunset.
And that was, I mean, how much is an election, and is that burden on us too, right? If to put it out there?
Yeah. You know, elections depends on who's on it. Can you share the cost?
Right.
But a lot of the estimates anymore coming from the county are $35,000.
Yeah, the best time to run something for the school is November and April. In November, you've got all the federal stuff, and then of course in April, you've got all the local stuff. That's the cheapest time of the year to run.
So wouldn't it be, I mean, would it, gosh,
If you don't run in August, you're not getting it this year.
I know.
Yeah, so
But,
I mean,
okay, let's go back, but if 39% said that they'd say that they voted then, I mean, before you put it out there, wouldn't we want to get a sense? I mean, I don't want to pay another, I don't remember how much that cost.
13,000.
13,000, that's right, it was under the limit, okay. I mean, it just seems like we
Well,
should
when you
have an
run an
idea.
election though, you're
Well,
gonna
when you
do
did
a
the
bunch of things to try to
when we did the
convince
survey
people.
though, we didn't have the option of the 50 cent or the rollback. So that should be on the survey and then see what that says.
Well, we
That's
did
my
talk
only-
about going back to land in June and redoing a survey.
Yeah, but if we're going to pay for,
We
I
have
mean,
to have it, we have to decide by May.
if the
Is that-
cost, one point I would make is if the cost of the election is an issue, if the cost of an election is perceived as an issue, I would just say, you know, a survey is simply a survey, and they are going to try to be scientific, but I mean, they don't poll that many people. It doesn't cost that much more to run the election, especially if you're sharing the cost with somebody else. And so you're going to get actual raw polling data, and if nothing else, it tells you where we're at and with what voters in town. And so I would go on record to say I'd like to run an election in August, if for that reason only. And obviously, we need the money, and in my role, see.
And that's true. And you know, Bo, you made a really good point, because then I think that the key with that is we're being honest. If this is why this is part of it. We just need to see where we are. We need to.
This is probably a stupid question. On the ballot, could we put 63 cents or rollback?
Yep, you can actually as many things on there as you want.
Well,
We've already had this conversation.
Let the voters have the option of voting for it.
Because what you do there when you put more options on there, you might get the lower one.
Maybe you
If you
get
get part of it, you get part, and you might get both.
You might get both, yeah.
Have that be wonderful.
That would be wonderful.
That'd be a good
Usually
way to
when you
do
put two on, historically, you usually screw both of them.
Well, sometimes. A lot of districts will run two things at once because they're hoping that,
At least one of them though.
and that's the way it always happened where I came from. They always gave us one. You know, they gave us the lesser of two evils, I guess is the way you'd say
It's
it.
better than nothing.
Right, so I
When you're
mean,
putting it on there, why not for both?
yeah, that's what me and Bo had this conversation.
Anyway, because
All right, I
the next
think
school year, you're gonna have to
we
make
could do both
changes if
of
it
those.
doesn't pass.
Why not?
Well, I mean, Bo brought a presentation to the board a couple of months ago, I think it was, where he was showing you that you need, what, $1.20 or whatever?
Well,
Just even.
You know, if we lose the money and then we have to come back, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a significant increase, no doubt. And
But
Well, if we run it and we lose it, we at least will know in the next year what we have to do to offset the money that we lost.
Right.
If we don't run it, we're never gonna know. We're gonna be shooting from the hip,
Yeah.
and that's not a good way to do it. We're gonna have more uncertainty than we already have if we don't run it.
So how long have we got to decide if we're gonna do this?
It has
May
to,
26th.
it's so many weeks before the election.
May 26th.
May 26th, when we have to have the language.
It has to be to the courthouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we would bring back to you, once you kind of tell us where you want to go, we'd bring back ballot language and a resolution saying this is what we want to do. And we'd have the exact ballot language ironed out at next meeting, ready for you to, yeah, for the May board meeting, yeah.
Agreed.
Well, you know, the sooner we do that, the more time we have on a campaign.
So we should tell them to go ahead with that?
And guys, the thing that I would advise the board, and you guys know this, but it just, taxpayers know it's coming. Obviously, we have had our issues. I feel like we've done, I mean, both board and the things that you guys have had to do to address it. I feel like internally, we've done things that we feel like we have to address. It's going to be a continuous process. And, you know, I think we owe it at least to our voters to be able to show their support. I would hate to see us just not do anything and you know, take that card off of our voters to even show their support for education. Regardless of personal feelings, regardless of hard feelings, I get it, but they at least deserve the opportunity, in my opinion, to be able to show or not show their support for their kids.
But I think also, I agree, but I think that as we are, but I'm going to just verbalize it since we got all the cameras here, we have to go in with it with eyes open.
Absolutely.
That is the landscape where it is right now. And, yeah. Gosh, if we can look at both.
Bring language for both.
Okay, so
they can pick with whatever one they want to.
okay, and did I hear you guys entertaining the idea of maybe running both?
Yes.
So what we may need to do is have 3 options. Independent, like if you can run both of them at the same time, that would be
one option.
Then we have,
Gotcha.
yeah, as one option, and then the 63
other
cents. Then the next question is it, do you want the 5-year sunset? Is that, if you, on the 63 cent language?
I'm an absolute no.
I think we should have it.
I do too.
So what?
Because that'll be
It might give you a better chance.
It doesn't have a snowball's chance.
I think with the landscape we're in,
without it.
I think you need to leave the sunset language.
And on the length of
I would love for it to have no sunset, but
That's not going to happen. That's not.
It's just ridiculous.
5 years? Okay. And then the other thing we need, and I'm assuming then you want it in our general operating fund, which gives you the flexibility of using it wherever you want.
Oh, yes.
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 Yeah, that's all part of the language I can see.
that's good, getting it all figured out.
No, that you threw out an option.
So again,
with the,
I'm going to give you 3 options. One for a 5-year sunset with 63 cents. Another option is a property rollback waiver. A third option is both.
Great.
okay, but with that, I mean,
You put them both in the same thing.
that is-
But they need to have the option. They have to decide which way they want to go. So they're going to have different.
that is the ballot language, but also with that, what we need is what's the budget going to look like for next year? Why we're going to need it? I mean, I know we know that, but we're going to need that
Get
more
that out there.
solid information too.
Get that out there. That
Right.
information.
What would we do with
Once
that
you
money?
decide what we're going to do, we're going to put stuff together to say why we need this. Me and Bo's already been working on this stuff since.
Well, and
Just
what?
look at triage and 10.
Yeah.
I mean, good Lord.
But also what, it's like United Way allocations. If we don't get it,
What's
what
it
are we
look
not
like?
going to have?
What's it
What
look
are we
like?
going to do without? Because I think, I don't want to play that game that we're not going to know what we're going to do without. We'll just see how that is in August. I want to kind of, does that make sense? Kind of want
We don't have, to be quite frank, we don't have enough time to do that. To do it by August. We don't, I mean, what you're asking for, if I'm understanding right, you want to know what we're going to cut if this doesn't pass.
Well, we'll have to by the next year.
But by the next year, now,
So, Chris,
if it doesn't pass in August, we will work all next year.
I think what you're saying is we won't know if this passes until August, obviously.
Right.
And so we can't, we're going to bring you a budget, I guess. I think what Wes is saying is, well, we can have an idea of what we would cut for the next year's budget for sure. Is that what you're saying? We just don't, we can't have it before
But
we
what
know.
I'm saying is I wish we get to United Way allocation way where we know right now if we're not going to get it, this is what's going to be, this is what it's going to be cut. I mean, I understand where we are with, because it's really hard then. I get it. No,
I'm not trying to be disrespectful to you, but it's just...
You're not. But do you understand when people go, so then, well, if you didn't get it, so well, now it's going to get cut. And now, why didn't you tell us ahead of time? So, I mean, those are a lot of questions people are going to throw at us.
Well, and our idea, from what I've been getting from the administration, is if it doesn't pass, the next year we're going to work on this. And we're going to put together saying, okay, we can go a year, we can sustain it for a year.
Absolutely.
And that's what, we've all discussed this, so when it doesn't pass in August, if we don't run it again in November, we should definitely run it in April. So that way we could possibly get it. By that April, we will have it. We will have together saying, okay, this is where you get everybody together, all the different departments, and say, these are the things we're going to have to cut next year if it doesn't happen in April. Because in April is when you're going to make your cuts.
And quite frankly, I would be of the opinion that we would have those options and scenarios even before the April election.
Well, before
just in case.
As soon as we know in August it doesn't pass, if it doesn't.
Yeah, but people before the August are going to be thinking now, if we don't pass this, what is it that they're going to cut?
We won't know. I mean, because
well, yeah. I mean, we do know some of the things that's always on the table. I mean,
you're going to cut it.
You've got to. Are you 80% of 75% of our budget is staff? So is it a reduction in staff? I talked to you about transportation. The minimum requirement is 3.5 miles. Guys, you start. All these things, that's a $3.5 million budget, but then the give and take is, how are you going to get the kids to school?
And I don't, and that being said, because I asked the question, then I don't, and I think Martin will probably appreciate this, I don't want it to be a threat.
Yes, right, yeah.
That if you don't, then this is what we're going to do. Because that's the last thing our staff needs, it's the last thing the community needs, is we're holding over. Yeah, so I don't want it that way. I just kind of want to have an idea of answers for questions that will be thrown. So in that, can we also brainstorm some of those questions we think that are going to be thrown? I mean, I know we will, because that'll be a part of the marketing plan, so I'll just be quiet. All right. Good deal.
I think I'm clear on what we need to bring back to the board in May.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you for. It sounds like you've had a lot of discussion. Of course, you have to bring to this point, because we've known that we were going to be at this place, and I know I appreciate that. You know, these are hard conversations to have, but clearly we need some. All right.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. We are done.
You got to vote.
Oh.
There we go.
Oh, got to vote.
Vote and log out. You're good at doing